All right, guys, welcome to an exciting interview. I'm really happy to have Jacquire here. I'm Dave Tuff, and you guys all know me. I teach AT at Belmont. But I want to introduce our guest here. Like I said, this is really exciting for Belmont because we're normally doing something that's related to a country type of producer. So let me just tell you a little bit about Jacquire before, as I'm introducing him. Multi-Grammy Award winner. He won the 2009 Grammy Award most recently for Kings of Leon's Use Somebody. Some of the artists he's worked with: Switchfoot, Tom Waits, Jars of Clay, Be Your Own Pet, the list goes on and on, Modest Mouse, and of course the Kings of Leon. So without further ado, let's give Jacquire King a big hand for coming. It's nice to be here, guys. We're going to take questions after the interview. We're going to go about 40-45 minutes and take some questions from you guys, and then I want you guys to have a chance to come up and at least say hey. I don't want to keep him here too long. He has some other commitments, but he should be able to stay around 10 or 15 minutes and meet you guys afterwards. So let's get started. Let's talk about your background a little bit. Did you did you grow up in Nashville? Did you grow up in a musical family?
No, my grandfather was a musician, but there was a piano in my house. My mom played some piano. I grew up in Virginia, and I think what got me, I love music, but I think what got me interested in music was my mom's record collection, and listening to that, and having a cassette deck when I was a little kid too, and just recording and just taking music in.
So were you experimenting with recording, or
yes, without really without really knowing it? Sure. I wanted to be able to put recording. I used to make like little DJ shows on my cassette deck, starting at the age of 5, and I wanted to record the records of my mom's records on the hi-fi on my cassette deck. So I figured out where in the room that I should put the cassette deck and how loud to have the hi-fi and that kind of thing, so that I could have them on my cassette deck. And that's without knowing it, I was sort of learning how to record.
That's cool. That's cool. So what? I guess maybe we'll just kind of get a quick synopsis of what brought you to the West Coast and then back to Nashville. Did you go to school for audio engineering, or did you realize that that's what you wanted to do even in high school?
Well, I was a college dropout. You guys should stay in school. And I just sort of, the only thing I could really figure out that, I was playing guitar, wanted to be a drummer. The only thing I could really figure out that to do with myself was, music, and I really was fascinated about making records. I was a big Jimi Hendrix fan, and those records, those are kinds of records, that kind of classic rock record, you can tell that it's a performance, and that, it's pretty elevated music, and there's a lot of really advanced things going on, but it's really raw and genuine, and it feels like people playing in a room, but there's like manipulation going on too, and so that made me really curious about making records. And so I went to a school. I went to the recording workshop, which is in Ohio. It was a very short course, and kind of talked my way into a studio job as an assistant engineer.
But that was West Coast?
That was in Maryland.
Oh, Maryland. Okay.
Well, I was still living in Virginia. And then, I worked at the studio for about a year, and I thought that there's probably better places. Although the music I was exposed to was pretty good, I didn't know at the time, it was just like, because this is the late 80s, so things like DC hardcore, like, Fugazi, Henry Rollins was, from around that time and in that place, and there's go-go music, which was sort of like an early influence on hip-hop. There was all kinds of things, thrash music. I did jazz sessions that came down from New York, all kinds of things. But I figured, well, there's got to be, I want to go where the music business is, and I didn't want to come here because I thought this place was only about country music. There's no way you get me to come here. And New York is too intense for me. I like it. I have family up there, but it's too intense for me. I thought, well, I'll give California a try. I went to LA and I looked for jobs, and I didn't like it there. I didn't like the people.
Late 80s, early 90s?
This is like 1988.
Okay.
Is
this still like your band?
I'm 43 years old. So I went to LA, didn't like it. I was supposed to be there 3 weeks to find a job, didn't like it, so I just went to the beach every day. And my studio manager in Maryland said that I should go to Northern California, to San Francisco, because he had some friends there, and look for a job there. And I got a job at a studio called Different Fur. And so I moved, that's what took me out there.
And what kind of records did they do there? Everything? Or?
No, it was a SSL room, which was kind of new at the time, and did a lot of Windham Hill stuff, which is like jazz, jazz, interesting music, and we, late night we do hip hop, and then Oakland kind of stuff, which is not at the time wasn't like gangster rap hadn't happened yet, and so all that stuff was very interesting. And then we also did sound for television. There was a show called Unsolved Mysteries, which probably everybody's still familiar with. So we do that. That production was like mostly MIDI based and DX7s, synthesizers and stuff. I got fired from that job because I fell asleep on a session, and not really. You kind of, when you work an 18-hour session, as you guys probably are aware, you get pretty loopy, and you do them enough in a row, and it gets to be kind of much.
Well, can you even speak to that? Because they haven't even gone out, and a lot of them haven't gotten their first job yet. Mm-hmm. And how many hours a day? I mean, when you first start out as an assistant, are you working?
Yeah, probably as an assistant. I mean, you can expect to work 12, 14 hours, just because your client. It depends. Your client in this day and age. Your client, in a facility like this, most of the clients that come in here, because this room costs what it costs, and it should, but budgets are what they are. People are going to come in here and they're going to want to work really fast. They're going to want to come in for 2 or 3 days because that's all they can afford, and they want to get as much done as they possibly can. So they're going to work you, and that means you got a lot of setup, and you set up and tear down a lot because sessions don't last very long. So yeah, I mean that's what you should expect. But for me, at a certain point, you realize that I'm not really productive past 8 or 10 hours. Mm-hmm. It's like I kind of reach my brain is kind of done, my ears are kind of done for the day, and so when you get to a place where you can kind of call the shots, don't work 6, 7 days a week. Don't work more than 10, 12 hours, unless you really have to, because you can be efficient and creative and just do things without wasting time.
Cool. That's good advice. So how did the assisting stuff then lead into mixing and or producing, or when did you realize you wanted to produce? And I mean, I know you kind of do it all. You mix, you produce, you track, but when how long did that take to get to that place?
It took a very long time. I sort of always felt like I could produce music. I mean, to me, it's all kind of the same thing. It's like learning to engineer, you have opinions about music. Obviously, we all want to do this because we have a love for music and interest in it. So you're going to have opinions about it. Probably most of you are musicians or have some musical ability. So you kind of have to take that into account. But you start out, you have to realize when you're starting out as an intern or an assistant engineer, nobody wants to hear what your opinion is. You need to be musical so that you're paying attention to the environment and be able to respond and help the engineer, help the producer, sort of be that invisible person that's really clued into what's going on. You got to really listen to everybody. It's a hard job because you have to pay attention to everyone's needs.